2 months after finishing my master's, a professor from my undergrad asked if we could meet. Having just finished my thesis, I was busy catching up on TV and life, but I was able to take some time. He proceeded to ask if I could teach his second-year class called Skill Acquisition in the coming semester. He was going on sabbatical, and all other options were unavailable on short notice. In other words, they were desperate. And, well, being an unemployed graduate student, so was I. Without hesitation, I said yes, and the contract was drawn up and signed within 24 hours. Not nearly enough time for any of us consenting to understand what we had actually just agreed to. You see, I was 23 at the time, and I had just agreed to teach a class of 20-year-olds. There's good reason why 4th graders aren't asked to teach kindergarten. Not only that, but I was going to teach a subject I had not studied since I was a very mediocre student in the exact same class. Now, one of the foundational lessons in the study of skill acquisition is understanding the environment you are performing in. Is the environment closed, or is it open? In other words, is the environment relatively stable and predictable, like playing the piano, or is it constantly changing, like in contact sports? For me, so long as I did my research in the content before each lecture, it was relatively stable and predictable. I had control of that. But it was the students who were unpredictable, and they were the biggest obstacle to overcome. Because I had no idea who these people were. I had no window into their motives, if they actually cared about the content, if they just needed the credits, or if they had just wandered in looking for a place to nap. And the less I knew about them, the more unpredictable the environment was. Now, when you're in an open setting, your best bet for success, again, is to study it. It's the main reason why professional athletes study game tapes for upcoming opponents. Expect the unexpected. So at the beginning of the semester, I sent out a survey asking a variety of questions. What would you consider a success in this class? What are you most excited to study? What are you least excited to study? And with each response, the environment became better understood, giving me a greater semblance of control and confidence. Going into that first lecture, I was prepared for anything that they could throw at me. And just by asking for their opinion, showed to them that their insight actually mattered when it came to their education. In the same survey, I also asked them what their 3 favorite songs were. And before every lecture, I would play their music. People started arriving early for an 8 a.m. class just to listen to their tunes. Since that first course, I've taught over 1,000 students in kinesiology and anatomical sciences, my main area of expertise. I'm far more comfortable teaching now than I was in that first class. But even if you are self-assured and well-versed in the subject matter, taking the time to know who you are speaking to is an invaluable measure. Simply showing a capacity for caring can render incredible things, because it will be recognized, and it has a tendency to be matched. One time, Breaking Free from High School Musical came on before the lecture, so a student led a room of 200 people in a sing-along. Now that is absolutely amazing, but an absolutely impossible act to follow when you have to talk about the blood vessels in the arm for an hour. For Halloween one year, several students dressed up as me and my cat to the lecture. And for the next hour, I stood there oblivious to 20 atoms sitting in front of me. I got my own back the following year by bringing in my doppelganger to teach the class. Now, an exam can tell you a lot about a person, least of which is their intelligence. An exam, though, provides an excellent window into an individual when faced with a stress response that cannot be resolved through fight or flight. So I always add a bonus question at the end of an exam, where any answer is good for a mark, but I will give an extra bonus mark for the very best in the class. And despite it being the simplest to answer, I've heard that that bonus question is more stressful than the rest of the exam. And I've asked things like, why did the chicken cross the road? And the answers are quite simply amazing. Because there's been political spins. There's been the straight up. The ones that tend to hit a little too close to home. The verbose. Of course, there's the classic answer to the age-old question. But the most common answer, though? Why would a chicken go to KFC, of all places? That's their Soylent Green. One year I asked them to impress me, and believe me, they did. And just a reminder here that these are sports science students, because they've written out sheet music. I've received linguistic lessons. But when asked to impress someone under exam conditions, the most common answer is writing out all the words to the theme song from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. What makes that all the more impressive is the fact that that show ended 4 years before the majority of those students were actually born. At least 5 students have also written out Shania Twain lyrics, but that don't impress me much. My fiance at the time said I needed to come up with a signature cocktail for our wedding, so I outsourced the task to my students. The most common answer? Don't ask a bunch of 20-year-olds for advice on cocktails. But my favorite question to ask is to draw a picture. Any picture is good for a mark. And from a sample of roughly 300, 90% of pictures fall under one of 5 categories: flowers, animals, anatomy. Pictures of me that range from the flattering to kind of the polar opposite. But when given free rein to draw any picture, the most common answer is that of crying or sadness. And seeing the last one in particular brings back a lot of memories from my time as a student. I was 18 when I first had the necessity to organize my pens and highlighters for multiple hours a day. I was 18 when I regularly imagined placing a shotgun in my mouth in the middle of lectures. But more importantly, I didn't question that thought process. It wasn't until I was 19, after an attempt to take my life, that I spoke to someone for the first time and found out that these weren't healthy thought processes. I was 20 when I relapsed, after 18 months of vigorous therapy and daily treatment. Today, I'm 26, facing each day as they come, ensuring I never fall down that spiral ever again. I was the very person then that I am teaching now. So I feel obligated to share my experiences with mental health, mental illness, and how dangerous internalizing those issues can be. And after my mental health lecture, in any given semester, 20 to 30% of students will tell me in person or from anonymous feedback that they go through similar issues or sought help when they learned they weren't alone. In a class of 150, 10 came forward with rather emphatic resolve, telling me they have obsessive-compulsive tendencies as well. 1 year, after listening to my mental health lecture, a student shared their plan to commit suicide with me. Apparently, it had never crossed their mind that they were in a self-destructive loop. 2 years on, they're still here and they're still going strong. A little bit of vulnerability goes a long way, especially in the Instagram age, where we can so easily add a filter to mask any perceived imperfection. The learning and teaching process is dynamic though, and is far from isolated to the classroom. And we as human beings are going to be learning from and teaching others until the day we die in every aspect of our lives. Regardless of the environment, no one thinks they're the bad guy. They're just doing what they believe is right. So the best thing we can do is to understand those who are listening to us so they can best understand what we have to say. And when you have that understanding with others, it will continue to benefit you in ways you can't even imagine. About 2 weeks before this talk was originally scheduled, I still didn't have an ending. So I polled as many current and former students as I could possibly get their insight into. 50 said that I needed to finish with a rap about anatomy. They didn't seem to care that the talk had nothing to do about anatomy. They said I needed to rap no matter what. Within an hour, I had a series of sample tracks made and sent to me for that exact purpose. So, I guess in closing, can I get a beat, please? Anatomy is a study of structure. So we're going to start slow and we're going to get progressively more complex here. Are you ready? We're made of cells that are super small. They're found in all creatures, short and tall, with each cell like a Lego piece, building your body into a masterpiece. When cells collect, they make an organ, like your muscles, heart, lungs, and even your skin, thick to thin. From your toes up to your chin, the heart's the best. It's inside your chest, beats on the door when you're at rest. Feeling good? Let's up the ante, so we can learn our anatomy. Everything is in reference to disposition. Palms out, arms in, neck in extension. Turn too much, then your neck's rotating. That's how we know our scaling's activating. Inspiration is the lungs inflating. When our sternum flutter mass should be elevating. COPD won't let you breathe or let air pass by so easily. Kidneys are just beans that make you pee, and that's just how we learned anatomy. So what is an anatomical rap? Well, an anatomical raps, attack a cardiac attack of academics in fact to the beat of a track. In the know and the flow and ionic pentameter, though love flows laminar, it's a matter of stamina. To be like a lamina, we connect processively, dissect and obsess without making a mess. Progressively hardening, like a sclerotic artery, call like an oddity, cut out like an oddity, whether you came to be taught or stimulate thoughts, see provocative talks from leaders and docs, or forcibly sit through anatomical rock. Thank you.